All right. Hey, everybody. This is Melissa Clothier, the Right Doctor, and here I am at AFP's RightOnline here in Las Vegas, and we're having a great time. And joining me right now is Christine O'Donnell from Delaware. And as all of you guys have been paying attention, this is a big race because we're all out rhino hunting, and this is an important race on that account. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you very much.
Now, you're in a heatedly contested primary, which a couple months ago did not seem like it was going to be contested much at all.
Right.
I mean, I saw you at CPAC, and you were one of the group of young guns.
Right.
Right? And I was like, well, I don't know about that race, but now it's looking really competitive. So how's it going?
It's going very well, and I have to say it's thanks to the online community. It's helping me get the message out there and shed the light on the significance of this race. So we are surging ahead in the polls. More and more people are jumping on board and endorsing, because as National Review Online just pointed out, the significance of this race is that because it's a special election to fulfill the rest of Biden's term, although the general election is on the same day, it's November 2nd, just like it is across the country, I will be sworn in immediately. So that means I'll be serving during the lame duck session when Reid and Pelosi have pledged to revisit things like cap and trade, all those very destructive pieces of legislation that can't get true legs in Congress. So during the lame duck session, they're going to sneak this stuff in. The reason my race is significant is because the Republicans, I and my opponent, are both polling well in the general. So the primary, without taking anything for granted, the primary could be a winner-take-all primary. Mike Castle is the most liberal Republican in the House of Representatives. Ace of Spades has called him King Rhino. He's, you talk about rhino hunting, this is, the #1 target. So we as a conservative movement, we as true constitutionalists have a decision to make. Who do you want serving in that lame duck session? Someone who advocates for cap and trade, someone who not just was only one of 2 Republicans to vote for Disclose, but he authored the Disclose Act. And it's, someone who voted for TARP.
And how is that stuff polling in Delaware?
Oh, they're fed up.
Really?
People in Delaware are fed up with Mike Castle's liberal voting record, with the Obama, Reid, Pelosi liberal agenda that is destroying this country, especially with cap and trade. Small business owners recognize that this could be the final nail on the coffin to destroy us economically. I believe the best thing the government can do right now to help the economy is to get out of the way of the entrepreneur, get out of the way of the small business owner, and let them authentically create jobs.
Yeah.
Castle doesn't understand that. He supports those bills, voted for TARP, voted for the cash for clunkers, has pledged to continue his support for cap and trade, no matter what they rename it. The bill formerly known as cap and trade.
Right, exactly.
Whatever they call it, he's going to be behind it. I will not. I will not only vote against it and pledge not to vote for anything pushed through during that lame duck session, but I will advocate against it. Even if I have to, I was telling Ed, even if I have to call you from the cloakroom floor to let you know what's going on, I will. Because that's what needs to happen so that these backroom deals are no longer successful. So that the American people have a say again in what goes on in Congress, so that the will of the people is actually followed, and the Constitution...
It's a novel concept.
Isn't it a novel concept to have the Constitution be your litmus test?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Now, you're one of many women running this year, and I'm just curious because even in the new media, there's a lot more women getting involved too. Why do you think that is happening?
Well, I think the best thing that I could say is in an interview yesterday, someone asked me, do you consider yourself a mama grizzly? And the term, at first, mama grizzly?
Right.
Not sure how I want to answer that. But then I thought about it. Okay, a mama grizzly, when they're young, are threatened, watch out.
Right.
Watch out. And I think that's why there are so many women successfully running, because future generations are threatened. And the mama grizzly rises up, and you say, do what you want to me, but hands off.
Right.
Hands off my volunteers, hands off my nieces and nephews. So I think that's why the protective instinct of the women to fight for future generations is rising up and taking over and saying, let me get the job done.
Well, it's interesting because the feminists seem to be in a real double bind because they've worked and worked and worked, right? We want equality and have made a big stink, generally speaking, that women aren't equal yet, and yet there's all this evidence to the contrary, but it's being demonstrated more so on the right.
Exactly.
And so this has been a very difficult time for them. Now, do you consider yourself a feminist?
Absolutely, but let me qualify that. I consider myself an authentic feminist, not as defined by the modern movement.
Yeah.
And let me clarify that a little bit more. I was an English major, so I'll break it down. Ist means one who celebrates. As a feminist, I celebrate my femininity.
Yeah.
And I think women like us, women like represented in Smart Girl Politics and represented in the amazing uprising of authentic, feminist candidates, conservative female candidates, is because we celebrate the differences between men and women. And we celebrate our strengths rather than trying to eradicate the differences and become like men. So we can serve in what has been predominantly a male-dominated field, arena, especially in Congress, without sacrificing our femininity. And as a matter of fact, it is those truly authentic feminine qualities that will make us good. Because again, like I said, that protective instinct comes up because future generations are at stake.
Yeah.
I truly think of my nieces and nephews' face when when it gets tough and when the establishment pushes back and you think, why am I doing this? The picture of my niece comes into my mind, and I think that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. The Delaware in particular is kind of it's a pretty blue state, is it not? I mean,
yes and no.
I mean, it's like Joe Biden's home territory. It's like hard to fathom how he would be successful in that state, and then Christine O'Donnell would be successful in that state.
Issue by issue, whether it's Rasmussen or another, polling shows that people in Delaware are actually center right, but the issues are rarely ever made an issue in elections.
Yeah.
For example, right now Mike Castle won't debate me. Republicans have a choice, yet he won't allow the Republican voter in Delaware an opportunity to see each candidate present their policy side by side and then say, you pick. So even now, the polling shows that while the voters are center right, those issues are rarely identified with a candidate.
Right.
So we need to educate them to let them know. Mike Castle will say in his campaign speech, I'm for creating jobs, I'm for lowering the deficit.
Sure.
Then why are you supporting cap and trade?
Right.
Why did you vote for the bank bailouts? You say you're for limiting government, but everything you've done legislatively counters that.
Right.
We need to hold him accountable. So there's this perception that Delaware is a blue state. But again, like I said, look at the polling. They care about the issues.
Right.
They care about what's going on with the economy. It doesn't take an expert to figure out our country's going broke.
Yeah.
You don't need a soundbite or a poll to tell someone whether or not they're struggling to meet their bills. And they know the worst thing we can do right now is to raise their taxes and take away what little income families are surviving on.
Okay, so what's your history? For the people who will be viewing this, the people who are not in Delaware and kind of watching and deciding where to send money, because that came up in one of the sessions here. People were like, well, we don't want to send money to the official organizations. What should we do? And I suggested looking at individual candidates like you, to start sending money, phone banking for whatever, no matter where you live.
Right.
And so tell people a little bit about your history, about what brought you into this, to decide to even run.
Okay, great. Thank you for asking that question. Because what people need to know is that I have worked in Washington, so I have enough policy experience to know how Washington works, but I have enough real life experience to know how it should work.
Right.
So I'm not a multimillionaire like my opponents, and neither are most people. But I've lived in Delaware for about 10 years. I've been involved in political advocacy for 20 years. Worked mostly on media as a pundit, so to speak, before I threw my hat in the ring to run for office. But the significance, like you were saying, we don't want to necessarily give to organizations. I am grateful that you share that sentiment, because you give to something like the National Republican Senatorial Committee, they're giving that money to Castle, who is not supporting the Republican platform at all. Candidates
Have they
like
come out and endorsed him? Or is it more like they're talking to the funders and funneling people to him?
Well,
I'm kind of putting you on the spot here.
No. Here's the tricky thing. Orrin Hatch, who came up to Delaware as a representative of the NRSC, presented Castle with a $10,000 check. They had a big fanfare press conference about it. So it gave the appearance, this was this past spring, that the NRSC gave Castle $10,000. Turns out they were technically, by the book, and that $10,000 came from Orrin Hatch's PAC.
Right.
But they didn't say that. We only knew because we said, hey, you're supposed to be neutral here. So, they're doing things like giving Castle an iPhone app and, featuring him on the website and mentioning him. And but they're going to have egg on their face once again, the way they did in Sharon Engel's race, the way they did with Rand Paul. Look at the polling. Again,
Rubio
you don't believe
Florida,
me when I say my gut, my instinct. You don't believe my campaign manager who's got a lot of experience. Look at the polling then.
Right.
Castle's down 12 points. I'm going up. Castle can continue to decline as more and more people get fed up that Obama, Reid, and Pelosi are shoving this agenda down their throat. The more and more people realize that Castle promotes the Obama, Reid, Pelosi agenda, even though he has an R behind his name, he's going to continue to decline to the point where Coons might be ahead, whereas I'm rising and I'm gaining strength because I'm just as fed up. I'm just as angry. And, like I said, I'm not part of the establishment politics. I'm not a multimillionaire. I feel the impact of what they're trying to do, and that's why I want to go to Washington and fight against it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today. And
this has been great. Fun.
Tell everybody where they can find you online and how they can donate and everything.
Christine2010.com is my website, CHRISTINE 2010.com. And I also want to remind folks that because I only need 20,000 votes to win, and that's if there's an unprecedented voter turnout, that's a high projection that we've come up with. Giving $100 to our race is like giving 1,000 to Marco Rubio, because they need millions.
Right.
We need hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So when you can give $100, if you can afford to give $100, that's going to go a long way. If you can only afford 25, that too is going to go a long way. And I assure people that we are spending our money wisely. And the fact that we haven't hit the 250,000 mark, yet we're ahead in the Rasmussen poll, shows that we're spending our money wisely. We're focusing and targeting where our dollars spent are going to have a multiplier effect. So I'm asking people, we can't do this alone. Please send what you can. I recognize every dollar is a sacrifice, but we're grateful.
Okay. Well, you heard the woman. Everybody open your checkbooks, and we got to get these people elected, and it's happening one race by one race. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope after you win that you'll come back on and we'll talk again, and it'll be Senator O'Donnell.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll have a big blogger party because the bloggers...
I know Eric's going to have something here in Vegas. Are you coming out for that, Ed?